Good afternoon and welcome to Houston Techfest 2020, the virtual edition. Before we start, I want to make you aware of a feature in the presentation that will make the session more interactive. Please make note of the question mark icon at the upper right of the presentation screen. Clicking that icon will open the question and answer feature, which will allow you to send the moderator questions to be delivered to the presenter at the appropriate time. So please feel free to post questions anytime during the session. We are also excited to let you know that CodeMag will be giving everyone a free subscription. Houston Techfest will email everyone a link after the event. We are proud to present Rafael de la Cruz, who will be sharing Automate a Business Process using Power Automate. Rafael, take it away.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. So this is my first time doing an online event, and let me tell you that I'm enjoying it probably more than you guys are. This is my fourth year speaking at this event. I had a chance to also speak at the SharePoint Saturday event in Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago. I was actually in Chicago this year before all of this situation with the virus started. And I always do it because, I like to share what I know. I work for an oil and gas company currently, and I've been just trying to be active by signing in to these events and requesting to speak. Every time that I do it, I always speak about something different. Last year at this event, I was speaking about Microsoft Azure. They gave me two sessions actually, and the second one was about migrating SharePoint on-prem to SharePoint Online best practices. So this one here, and you know my name, Rafael de la Cruz. Some of you probably know me. I've been speaking in conferences for the last, I would say, 10 years, in the SharePoint environment, more than 15 years. And as you, I believe, keep evolving myself on adding new skills and learning new technologies, because if we don't do it in 2 years, we're going to be out of business. So this presentation, I decided to do it a little different because in previous one, I learned that somehow some people don't know anything about it. So I want to show you live what I'm gonna be talking about during the presentation. So just to give you an idea before I show you that, during the presentation, I will tell you what the Power Platform is and which applications are part of it, what is Power Automate, what is new in Power Automate. There are links in this presentation. When a presentation is live, you can click on it and you can see the latest information about it, different type of flows, templates, connectors, popular services, Power Automate pricing, a little information about this. And then I will be available 1 hour after this session ends to answer any questions you have. I'm not a consultant, so I don't do consultant jobs, but I help people. So if you don't know how to store something, or if you don't know how to learn or just create a new solution, feel free to contact me on my Twitter account or my LinkedIn account. And believe me that I will make the time to help you with it. So before I start with the presentation, so you understand what I'm going to be showing you, I will go ahead and show you a way to log into Power Flow, which is now called Power Automate. So when I log in, my account is there, my password as well. Click on yes. And again, I do this for you to understand what you're going to see in the presentation. So when I log in, you will see this is something that it will be fixed just by doing this. And I go back home here. So you will see action items. Anything that is assigned to me, like an approval or something like that, it will be listed here. In this case, if I click on it, there's nothing here because I don't have any. Then I can create a solution. When I create a solution, you will see this during the presentation where I can select automated flow, instant flow, schedule, UI, and a business process flow. I created 3 flows, one of each of these that I added to the presentation so you can see how you can do that. These 2 are a little more complicated, and I'm actually planning to speak about one of each just by itself because it takes a lot of time to create a real solution going this way. You can see the templates that are available. Now with the templates, when you click on any, it's just giving you a mock-up, if I can say that, of how you can send a customized email when a new SharePoint list item is added, or any of these. But of course, you understand that it's not going to do it for you. You have to customize it and then enter the URL of the site if it is the case, or create a connection to a database if that is what you're doing, which I will be talking about that during the presentation. Connectors. These are the connectors that are available as well. You can see OneDrive, SharePoint, RSS, Twitter, Dropbox, many, and they keep adding connectors and templates to it. So if you log in next month, you will see new ones listed here. Data, which is actually entities. This is one of the topics that I want to talk about as well. You can add a flow to an entity, and you will understand why and in which cases we do that. The connections that you can create, AI builder, our artificial intelligence, and solutions as well. So I wanted to show you this. Now you can come here and create certainly a flow, right? I'm not going to do that because you will see it in the video that I created. But, and this is actually outside of any platform, outside of SharePoint or anything, it's by itself. But if I log into my SharePoint Online account, then I'm going to show you this, and I'm doing it on purpose because I wanted you, and I know some of you, and this is not part of the presentation, that I can also add a workflow and associate that to either a list or a document library. In this case, I'm going to pick this picture library here. If we were live, I would probably ask people about why files and library is still here. Well, it is because this is actually listed as a classic library, knowing that the site is modern. So the way that I change it is I go to library settings, advanced settings, and then change it to a new experience. And then when I do that, I refresh, and you see that the library and the look is going to change. So I go here, let me go back, and probably I hope that I don't need to do it again. If not, I will. And then you see that it changed. This is the same library as you saw a second ago. Now, in the modern view, you see Power Apps and you see Automate. So if I click on Automate, Power Automate, then you can create a flow that is going to be associated directly to this library here. And it can be a list as well. And you can see your flows or configure an existing one if that is the case. That's what I wanted to show you. Okay, so let's start with the presentations or the presentation. Let me go here, and don't forget that if you have any questions, you can contact me via Twitter or LinkedIn as well. So Microsoft Power Automate is part of the Power Platform. So I will show you, and will take a minute for me to actually explain to you what is actually part of what is called Power Platform. And then, as I mentioned and show you to you a few minutes ago, these are going to be the topics that I will be talking about. So the Power Platform is actually these four applications: Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. The Power BI, I'm pretty sure you know about it, as well as the Power Apps and Power Automate. And I actually added here how you can log into it. Basically, you see that it is the same: powerbi.microsoft.com, Power Apps, Flow. They actually changed the name, but they couldn't change the DNS entry. And then the Power Virtual Agents, Microsoft, which is this. If you haven't heard, this is what is called bots. If you call AT&T or any of those companies or actually contact the help desk online and you ask a question, and the automated solution is answering the questions automatically for you, in most of the cases that is going to be a bot solution. So we're going to be talking about Power Automate. Now, but when people ask me in the past, what was good about SharePoint, unfortunately, every company that I visit, some of them are still only using SharePoint as a document repository solution. And even they do it without knowing best practices and applying best practices to it, meaning that they just upload documents, create a lot of folders similar to what they have in a shared environment, and that's it. So they don't really use the power of it. And in order to start using the power of what a SharePoint can allow us to do, one of the many things that we can do is to create Power Automate solutions. Because automating solutions is always that I tell anybody is one of the best features that you can use when in a SharePoint environment. Because I haven't actually seen a company that can say that all the existing processes they have are automated. It doesn't matter how large the organization is. They do a lot of things using Excel files or just sending emails with files attached to it to manage a process that somebody, you know what I'm talking about. So by automating a solution, it's actually adding more options to a company to actually use the remaining time on different things than just wasting all the time by doing those things manually. So you're going to see how many connectors we have so far, knowing that they are adding new connectors to it all the time. In October of 2019, they changed the name from Flow to Power Automate. Why? Because Power Automate is not just a workflow. I had a lot of years of experience with K2 and Nintex. My previous job, I was actually creating Nintex solutions and all of that, and I had a chance to actually speak at a Nintex event. They invited me and asked me to share my experiences with the application. So I'm very familiar with automating processes, and no need now to actually give you some of the difference between any of these tools. I also started, of course, with SharePoint Designer. I mean, who actually didn't work using that? Believe it or not, many companies are still using SharePoint Designer and is still using InfoPath, right? I mean, if they are free tools, and if they can do what you need, why not? Now, what is new in Power Automate? There are so many things that are new, and they keep adding new things. I just added some of the ones that I found interesting. Here is a link to where you can go and see all the updates and the new things that have been added. Like Azure integration with Power Automate was released back in April 19. Microsoft Learn is in a working process, and it will be released this month. I don't think it's live yet, where we can actually, for Power Automate, see a little more training and learning path and tutorials, which is amazing. I mean, I always say that what you need to know about a tool now is just a little bit about it, understand the structure of it, and then just Google it and start watching videos and learning and then using it. If you don't use it and you don't create real solutions, you're really not going to know about it. You can now search for connectors, templates, documentations, and this is here because before we were only able to search when we were in connectors for connectors and when we were in templates as well. Now, wherever you are, you can just search, and if you're searching for a connector, you don't have to actually go to the connectors in order to do that. Most of the AI builder model types now have their actions in Power Automate. This was released June 1st. If you want to copy and paste July 20, before it was not possible. If you wanted to use an existing action and you just wanted to copy and paste and make some changes to it, well, you have to, in that case, edit it again and customize it. Since then, we were able to do that. Support for Azure AD and Office 365 groups in approval process, September 2020. This is going to be released this month. And the UI flow support do until loops, which if you are familiar with a loop and what it is, you will understand this, that is not and was not available It's going to be released next month. Now, type of flows. As I show you on a live, when I was live, you remember that there were automated flows, instant flows, scheduled business processes, and UI flows. Automated flows, you can imagine that it's. I'm gonna go ahead and show you every one of these. So because like scheduled flows, this was one of the questions that somebody asked me. Some of the flow solutions only work based on an event, meaning when something happens, when something is created, added, modified, right? In this case, you don't need that event. You can just say, run this workflow once an hour, once a day, once a year, and do whatever you want the flow to do. I mean, you can get log files from an application and send it to a library in SharePoint. You can send an email. I always say, just ask and it can be done. Because if you don't know any of these solutions, even knowing that you don't need to know or be a developer, you can add code to it and customize the solutions if you want the solutions to do it in a different way. Then this is one of the, I'm probably going pretty fast here because it's online. So I'm not, let me check my time and see, I'm pretty sure this 4:20. So we're going to have a lot of time here and I will probably be able to answer questions during the event. Again, because in a live presentation, people ask questions even when I ask them not to, and I go back and forward and things like that. And in this case, I want you to know that I'm not seeing your questions yet, so I will see as soon as I finish this presentation. So for this case, I created an automated workflow. And basically what I'm doing here is creating a folder in a document library when an entry is added to a list. The other ones are actually interactive with Microsoft Teams, and you will see what it's doing. So if I play this video, then you remember that I show you this menu here when I log into flow.microsoft.com. It is adding the country automatically as you saw it, in this case, the United States. You see the 4 options that we have when creating a flow. We use the automated option, flow name, right? And then in this case, it's going to be called Office 365. This is when I created this video when I was speaking in Chicago. So you're going to see the 3 videos that are actually referring to. Again, this flow is going to be easy. What I like to do in my next presentation is, as I mentioned it to you, to actually dedicate only to create a complicated flow, something that I see people will be interested about it. So I entered the URL of the site. Now, it doesn't have to be SharePoint. It can be a database, if that is the case. You can access any database if you have, or you can connect to any database if you have access to it. If you have read access, you can get data and read information. If you have read and write access, then you can read and push information to it. So in this case, I'm looking for the action. I'm going to hold it here and say, well, what is the trigger? What is triggering this flow? It is this here when an item is created. Now, when creating a flow, this is something a while ago that I was not paying attention. And then there are some things that you really need to just not click on it and understand. And it is that it is easy to understand that when you see item, it's talking about a list. And when you see file, it's talking about a library. That means that if you use when an item is created, don't expect the solution here to show you document libraries, because this is actually intended for lists. The same as if you pick the one when a file is created, then you're not going to see lists. Okay, I will go ahead and continue with the video. There are 2 more flows that I created, and then I will have 3 more slides for the remaining flows, 1 for the prices, and also, which is the last one, for the questions. So in this case, when an item is created, I enter the URL of a site and the list, right? And then here is actually where, let me go ahead and pause it here, where the folder is going to be created. What I'm saying is create the folder on this site under this document library, right? And then for the folder path, I'm just putting the title. Now, here, when managing a workflow, let me go back a little bit. You see dynamic content and expressions. I'm gonna go back because we have time and show you what you see when you click on expression, and as you see here, what you see when you click on dynamic content. Dynamic content is showing you everything that you can use and access from this source here, which in this case is the site and the document library. So I click on it, save it. Now, when you save it, let me pause it here as well. You're gonna see this option here, right? So let me play this a little more and go back right here, right? Right here. Good. A little more. Good. So you see save, flow checker, and test. When you check a flow, it's gonna probably say that no errors, no warnings, or anything like that. In some cases, doesn't mean anything because you can have logic errors that the flow is not validating. And when you actually test it, is when you see if it is gonna work or not. At least it's giving you an idea that what you have here so far is good. So 0 errors, 0 warnings. So I'm ready to go ahead and test it. When you test it, let me pause it here. You can actually use an existing previous run that you did. So if you have been testing this because you have been making changes to it, then you don't have to start a new trigger. You can use an existing one and then do that. Now, one of the things that I can just tell you, and I mentioned to you that I do not want to compare Nintex or K2 with Flow, and it is that one of the many things that I like about Power Automate is that when the flow fails, you can actually check and see where it did fail, and then when you make the changes to the flow, you can execute the workflow from where it failed. It was not possible in actually Nintex. I'm not sure if it is now. It's been a year since last time I worked on it, or K2. And again, I'm not trying to compare anything here, but just to give you an idea. So if you fail, you can go back, make the changes, and then rerun the workflow, and it will continue what actually failed. In this case, I will continue with this. So I will perform the trigger action because it's the first time that I'm actually testing this. Now I'm gonna go to a list, right? You will see that list here. No, that is not. It's actually that list, the Office 365. I'm going to create a new entry, and the new entry is gonna be called My Folder, right? Now, you can do many things. If you're adding an attachment and you want to also grab the attachment and send this to a document library or send it to an email or send an email with attachment, just ask and imagine, and I know you will be able to do it. So I continue with this video, and then I will show you live as well, where you can see the history of the flows and what happened, how many were successful and all of that. And you can see here that if I go back a little more, the folder, the folder with this name was created within the document library. So this is just one flow that we can create. Let me go back here, close this. So the next flow is the one that let me just do this to make sure that I'm not going to previews. So this is in previews here. Okay, so the automated flow. Now the next one is the instance flow. This is triggered manually, right? There are going to be many cases where you don't want to schedule it or create a workflow based on an event or a trigger. You just want to do it manually. And then when you do it manually, you have the options to just execute the flow whenever you want. This flow that I created here is posting the message to a Teams channel. So I'm going to click on it. And again, you see the menu that I showed you a few minutes ago. We're going to go and enter the flow name, instance flow. Remember, this is connecting with Teams, and the following one is doing that as well. So in this case, manually trigger a flow. And we're going to create it. As I showed you in the previous flow, you always see here how it's going to be triggered. It's not going to be triggered when a new item is added, like the one before was actually doing it. So in this case, we are looking, now you can search here for the connector, right? The built-in standard. There are some premier connectors that are going to be available only if you have the license for that. If you don't, then you won't be able to see the connectors. Can you create custom connectors? Can you develop your own custom connectors? Yes. You see custom here. You can create it, publish it, and use it. Then we're going to use the pause message. In this case, I'm going to pause it here a little bit. So you see Teams. I'm going to find my Teams channel here and my Teams, and then the channel, and then send a message to it. I mean, there are going to be many cases where you say, when an email is sent to this email address, I want the people that are connected to my team channel, or one specific channel, to actually get a copy of it, just to give you one example. I don't know, name it. So I play this, enter. This is actually the name of a Teams, and here is the name of a channel that I created. I just enter a body, anything that I can imagine, and I can attach files as well if you want to. Remember that this is an manually triggered, so we're not going to need to go and upload or add anything or modify anything. The subject, I'm about to enter that here. And I always create the videos for my presentations because, believe me, I've been in Vegas 3 times in SharePoint events. And I have seen cases where people haven't been able to, let me post this, speakers haven't been able to do anything because the internet didn't work or because what they were testing didn't work, because you never know. I was just telling the guys that yesterday my battery fell, and I was scared because I was just thinking, well, I don't want to go and buy a new laptop just to do this, but if that is the case, I will. I was able to remove the battery, and then later on I will probably replace it. And then this morning, a few minutes before, I lost my internet access. So I said, well, I mean, what is going on? And then I just closed everything, reboot my computer, and everything was back again when I log in. And I still have time to call the company and find out if there was something wrong, and I can use the internet through my phone as well. But my point is, you never know when you're doing a presentation what is going to happen if you do it live. Sometimes if I have plenty of time, like on my next one, if I speak about one specific topic, I will do it live, but I'll also have a video as a backup in case anything happens. So I test the flow here, and then I check first, test it. Since it is my first time, I will perform the trigger action, save and test, and then continue it. And now remember, let me pause here, that it's going to send a post, in this case, a message to the Chicago channel. So I play this. Your flow runs successfully. Now I'm going to go to the channel right here, this is my teams. You see general and Chicago channels, and then the message that I just sent. So these are simple workflows. I keep saying workflows, but there's never, it was the way we were calling it, and we still call it that like that sometimes, flows. There are many things that my point is, as I said it probably a few times already, there are many things that you can do with this solution if you have access to either a database or in this case SharePoint or OneDrive. Just imagine, and then you can automate it, and that is one of the most beautiful things that we can do when using SharePoint. Now, do we need to have SharePoint in our environment in order to use Flow? No. You know, and you see that I can go through flow.microsoft.com and log in and create solutions that way. Or if you have a SharePoint environment, you can do it from the Lizzo library like I show you as well. So this is the good for this video. Here you can actually see if it actually if it was successful on every one of the steps. You will see one step in any case that it didn't go well, and then if you click on it, you will see a message. And if you go to the history, well, I will show you that in a few minutes. You will see that as well to better understand why it didn't work. Most of the cases, every situation will be different, but if you know Flow, you will be able to Google it if you don't know, or just immediately make the changes and run it again. Remember that when you execute the workflow, you can use a previous instance that was executed, or you can start from the fresh one and test it again. So the third workflow, the third flow, so this is the instance posting a message to a Teams channel, which we just saw. This one here is actually creating a Teams channel, and it's a scheduled workflow. This, when I was in Atlanta, when I was in Chicago, that was one of the questions. Can we schedule a flow? Yes, we can, and you're gonna see that in a minute. So we click on it, and then when we click on create, you're going to see the options to schedule the flow. Now I'm going to hold it here, and you will see that you enter the flow name and then run this flow starting this day at this time, and then you're going to see all the options that we have and how frequent we can execute the flow. That's the name of the flow. Remember, we're creating a channel here. It's gonna run under, at that time when I did it, when I was creating the video, actually 9 p.m. and then I go hold on it here, post it. Okay, you see that we can actually repeat this workflow or execute this workflow, this flow, once a month, once a minute, a week, a day, an hour, a second. If that is the case, there are going to be cases where you want to monitor something, but I just imagine having many workflows like this are going to use, I will say, a lot of memory. So second, it will be probably few cases where you can create a solution that way, but if it is needed, it's good for you to know that you can do it. So I continue with the flow, click on create, then you see that it changed the option here. It's not when an item is added or anything like that. Even when you chose that option, you can change it here. Something that is tricky, and let me go back, and you have to understand that, and I will pause it when we get there, it is the time. Let me do that. Let me actually go back a little bit here, create, okay. And I want to show you something that I actually went through myself. Let me see if it is the case here. And right here, this is what I wanted to show you. So let me go and play this again, right here. So this time format is the one you need to understand. If you, like in this case, you see 2020, February 27, and then 300Z. Every time zone is different. This is the time zone. So it's not complicated, but if you understand this, then you will be able to set the time properly. That's what I wanted to show you. I had some issues when I was using this a while ago, and I realized that it was just a format. Sometimes when you don't do this right, of course, the flow is not going to run. So I play this one more time. We still have plenty of time. It's 4:37, so we're fine. I'm going to be fine with the presentation. This is exciting, guys. I mean, I can tell you that I love it, and I hope that you're learning something about it. My goal as well on every presentation is that in any presentation that let me stop talking so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me go back here. So basically what we're doing here is, this is the team, right? Display name, the Chicago channel. Remember, we are actually creating a channel, right? And it's gonna be executed automatically. No errors, no warnings. We're gonna test it. Perform the trigger action, save and test, run flow, successfully started, right? If I use that link, I will be able to monitor and see what is happening. Something that happened while I was creating this, you're gonna see this live. No worries, in most of the cases, you just click on it. Remember that flow and Power Apps and Power BI, if you're using the web applications are millions, if not billions of people that are using it. So in this case, when the channel was created, is here hidden. And then you see that within the Dream Team teams, a new channel was created with this name. So I go here, and this is how we can create a flow like this. Now, let me go back to the presentation. What I was telling you is that when I go to a presentation, I always expect to learn something. And if I learn at least one item, then I'm fine, right? Something that I didn't know. In my case, when I'm presenting, I hope that in the audience, at least you can learn, everyone can learn one thing or clarify one thing. If I can accomplish that, then I feel myself that I did my job. Remember that I'm not a consultant. I'm not selling anything. I'm just doing this because I like it. So this is a business flow. Remember that we were talking about the other flows. Now, these two are going to be probably a session by itself. What I can say about it is that you can configure multiple business processes associated with the same staging record. Probably this is something that you don't understand. But is you can create what I have here. What I have it here. You can have up to 10 active business process flows per entity. Entity is something that you need to understand when can be created and what can you add to it. You can design business flows that are tied together, the records for up to 5 different entities into a single process. This is a different type of flows that you can create as well as the UI flows. These robotic process automated flows allow you to record yourself performing actions on your desktop or within a web browser. Remember when in many years ago, I remember that I was using an application that I don't remember, where I can actually click in, and there are many applications that can do that, clicking in different events or steps, and it was recording that. And when I was recording, it was creating a solution. As you can see here, record step-by-step actions such as a mouse click, keyboard use, and data entry, and turn them into intelligent workflows. And there are other solutions that were working that way in the past. You can, in this case, UI flows provide robotic process automation capabilities to Power Automate. There are many, technology is changing constantly, and there are many solutions that we can use that can automate in many ways different processes. It's not just about sending an email or creating an approval process or creating a folder. It's way more than that. And many companies that really know these technologies are really using it to improve their existing processes that as well allow them to be more, I would say, to first save a lot of money and to help the existing processes and use the time in a smarter way. Again, I have seen large organizations, and what about the small companies as well that have a lot of processes that are still manual, and automating them is easy. Why they don't do it? Probably because they don't have the right people, they don't have the time, or they don't care, or they don't appreciate, meaning that they are okay the way they're doing it. And in some cases, you know that the people that are actually doing it manually, they don't want a process to be automated because they think they're going to lose their job. So when they see somebody trying to automate the solution, they start fighting it and they don't let that person to do it until management from the top level come and say, this is the way we're going to do it from now on. And then is when everything changes. These are the templates. When I say, and I will go back so you can see like some of the templates, there are 319 templates. When you use the templates, and I mentioned this, doesn't mean that the template is actually doing it for you. Like in this case, save my email attachment to a SharePoint document library, right? Somebody send you an email. Automatically create a profile for a new candidate or start approval when a new item is added. Simple things. Create a Power Apps button. You have a button. You can actually do this on your cell phone. You push it, and then it does whatever you want the workflow to do. But when using a template, it's only giving you the layout. I will say that the trigger and also the actions. And then you need to enter the connection, or in this case, to which SharePoint site is going to be connected, which list or library or which database, and then the same with the actions as well. As part of connectors, I Googled this today, and there are 385 connectors. Of course, more than the one that you see on the screen, Azure AD. The integration with Azure AD it keeps getting better and better, not with Azure AD, with Azure in general. Dynamics 365, Project Online. I don't know a company that is using FTP anyway, but some are still using it. No need to use that anymore. SAP, many, and they keep adding new connectors every month, if I don't say every week. Some of the services that we have, and this is, I believe, is still current: Excel Online, Outlook, Dropbox, OneDrive, Facebook, I mean, name it, keep adding more to it. And about pricing is complicated. I would say that I will need one session just to talk about it, but I was able to gather this information. So per user plan, allow individual users to create unlimited flows based on their unique needs, $15 a month. So if it is for you, I have access to my flow and Power Apps through my Office 365 account. So I pay $25 a month and I have access to those tools. I don't have access to Power BI because I need to change my E4 plan to E5 and then pay $15 more, and then I will have access to Power BI. Per user plan with Attender RPA, $40 per user per month, and the license by flow per 5 flows per month. I believe, I don't know, I don't recall how much this is, but the pricing is way more than this. Is because a large organization, you can imagine that it's not going to pay $15 per user or $40 if that is the case. It will actually just add that to the license, and all the employees will have access to it. And then there are going to be different kind of licenses. You know that when you add a license to a user, if that user is not going to be using Power BI, well, you don't need to use the E5. If that user is not going to use Power Automate and Flow and the other ones, only the SharePoint, then you probably can use a cheaper license if it is the case. So I'm ready is 447, almost 450. I'm ready for questions if you have any to answer any of the questions. And I will be online for 1 more hour in case it is needed.
We do have some questions. The first being, can I use an external website like Amazon to search for a product with my given requirements, capture the results into an Excel sheet, and have it send me an email as notification?
Well, in order to, I mean, this is something that I haven't done, so I'm just going to guess, right? Uh, Amazon is actually a web application. So I have Amazon Prime, right? And so if I want to create a connection, which in this case is only read access to it, what I need to research, and since we have that questions, what I will do after this presentation is to go ahead and Google that and collect information, better information than the one that I'm going to provide now, the way that I will actually show the person how the connection can be created and then access that information from or export that information. In this case, we don't need to export it, we need to just access the information. Anything you want to, not just from Amazon, from SAP or from any other application, the application will need, you need to make sure the application is giving you access. And then when giving you access, you just need to find a way to connect so you can get that information. I don't know if somehow that answers your question, but I will get more information about it and will definitely provide it as soon as I have it.
Okay, there's a follow-up. Can I also set this up to check the website on an interval until it finds the matching product?
Well, I mean, which website, right? I mean, that's the question. And matching, let's say that you are, we're talking about Amazon.
Yes, this is still in reference to the
Well, I
Amazon
mean, this
question.
is something that I need to research myself, but it's actually, let's say that first you can set alarms in Amazon Prime, the way that it tells you when, or alerts, not alarms, alerts, it tells you when the item that you have been searching for is available. You don't even need to do that in many cases because when you do it, it keeps showing you and giving you other options. But if you want to be aware of when something is available and you want to search that way, again, we have just need to make sure we can create the connection, pull the data, and then as soon as we have access to it, we can do whatever we want to. I will go ahead and further research that and we'll provide more information before Monday for sure. Next question.
Is Microsoft planning to make this Power Automate into a, quote, RPA product, such as UiPath or Blue Prism?
Well, that's a question that I like to answer one that I can certainly answer, but no, I don't know that one. So again, Microsoft is changing the products every day, every month, every week. The way that if I say, for example, 385 connectors, it will be, I will be lying if I say this in 1 month, or if I say I cannot connect to Amazon Prime and pull data. If I check that in 1 week, it's probably possible. So if we check the new connectors that are added and the new features that are added, we can immediately see if we can do something or not. But definitely we'll provide more information after this presentation about it when I do more research. Unfortunately, don't have a question for that. Any other question?
What programming languages are allowed to be customized in this flow?
That is actually a good question. And let me, I used to be a developer and I did it for many years. And the flows actually, when you, and Power Apps as well, and the Power BI solution, I haven't done it, but I would Power Apps, I have done it. You can edit the, let me show you that. So if I go here, right, I'm going to go to one of the solutions, let's say my flows, and I believe is this one here, edit, and then pick code. So you can see the language that is used here. So a developer will basically understand this, right? So if I export this flow, I can add changes to it and then import it again. That is one way to do it. Again, I'm not a developer, so I won't be able to give you more detail about it. But what I can show you is this. So if you're a developer, you will basically understand what this is, right? Any other questions?
Yes, this is the last one. We're using Blue Prism to process Outlook Mail to handle business process approval emails, and this requires some parsing of the mail messages. I'm not sure if Power Automate can handle that. It looks a bit light in features. What are your thoughts?
Well, the flu, what was the name of the application or the tool?
Blue Prism.
Blue Prism. I don't know what that is, but let me tell you, I have created parse is the word that I use to answer that question. With Power Automate, even the other applications, we can actually capture the subject of the email, the sender of the email, the body of the email, and then use that information. I created in the past solutions that were saying in the subject we have the contract number and the year and the vendor, just to say something. And that information is separated by a dash or any other symbol you want to use. So I was reading the subject, and again, I hope this somehow answers your question. I don't know that tool. I was reading the subject of the email, parsing that information, and getting the information that I need based on what I explained to you, and then executing any action. I was saying, okay, well, if company is the first part of the subject, then it will find the email of that company address if that is the case. Let's say that it is the vendor and the company. Send an email to the vendor for the vendor to approve if what it was sent was the request, and so on. So the way that I created in the past was in some cases by reading the subject to it. Again, I don't know that tool. I'm just giving you an idea how you can probably do that. Can we parse the information if we have access to that tool from Power Automate? The answer is yes. Any other questions?
Just a comment. It looks like that's JSON data on the slide right now. Is that correct?
I think it is, yes, yes. I had it in mind, but when I have many things in mind, but that's what it looks. Yes, you're right. And what I will do if you guys are interested on learning how to add code to an existing solution before the presentation goes public, I can actually add another slide and another video so you can see how we can do that. And that is pretty good because Microsoft advertised that no code is needed when using any of the solutions. And that is true because you can do a lot only by using the GUI. But if you know how you can customize it, you can actually do more if it is the case when it's needed. Any other questions?
Nope, that is all. Okay,
so almost 5 p.m. If you have any additional questions, and again, I hope that you learned something from this presentation today, you can contact me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. I will go ahead and review the questions that you sent to me that I wasn't able to answer properly because I didn't know about it, especially the ones about Amazon. I will definitely research this and we'll have an answer by Monday.
Thank you all for attending today's session, and Rafael, thank you for sharing. The recording of this session will be available at houstontechfest.com soon. We hope you enjoy the rest of Virtual Houston Tech Fest. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much.